All right. So the first thing we're going to start by talking about is this. When you go, the easiest thing to talk about estimating percents is when you go to a restaurant, right? And you need to leave that tip. Well, some people, you can get your calculator out and you can calculate it exactly. Or you can, like my dad has like a little tip chart, like with a card that says this is this much, this is this much, okay? But we're not going to need either of those because we're going to use our noggin. We're going to estimate percents, okay? So in order to, before we start to talk much about percent, we need to talk about really what the word percent means. All right. I want you to write percent. And what does that mean to you? Percent, Nicholas? Not per every cent, but per every...
How much? I lost my keys.
Oh, even after that? I didn't notice that. Are there keys back there, Mason?
I don't know where they are. They could be a number of Sorry.
I did give them to you at the...
I know you did.
Oh, bummer. Sorry. You need one of those...
Yeah, like a tracking.
Yes. So percent means yes. Thank you. So per is another way to say out of. And cent means 100. So let's think about the prefix. Good luck. The prefix cent. How many years are in a century? 100. A decade is 10, yes. How many centimeters are in a meter? 100. 100. How many cents are in a dollar? 100 pennies. I hate this example, but how many legs are on a centipede? Believe it or not, that little sucker has 100 legs. That's why it's so fast, right? So do we all agree that percent means 100? Okay, so whenever we're dealing with something that's out of 100, it's a piece of cake, right? So if I were to say there are 100 7th graders at Seats Middle School, 85% of them play a sport. What is the number of students that plays a sport? 85, right? Because if there's 100 kids, everything's easy. But there aren't 100 kids in 7th grade. There's 200 and something. But let's look more at this class. There's 33 kids in here. So if I were to say there are 33 kids in Mrs. D's 4th hour and 82% of them play a sport, that's not 82 kids. It's only 82 kids when it's 100. So we're going to talk about how to estimate and find these today. Yeah.
All right. I have a question about, say you have, like, it's not 100, but say you have, like, the whole thing is, like, say we have 1,000 students in seats.
Yep.
Like, 85 play a sport. Could you just add a zero?
Well, it would work for that particular example. Whenever you're dealing with a power of 10%, everything is way easier. Yeah. It's when it's not that we want to be careful of. So let's first start by talking about what 10%. 10% is going to be our savior here. We're going to use 10% to help us find a lot. So if I had 10% of a dollar, how much pennies would I have? How many pennies would I add? 10. So now, how do I write 10 pennies? Sounds silly, but this is actually really important. Yes, that's 10 pennies, right? Okay. What if I had 5% of a dollar? I would only have 5 cents. But how do I write 5 cents, Nikolai? Yes. 0.05. Because if you think it's this, that's actually 50 cents. I need you to be very careful, especially because we're going to be dealing with taxes, and taxes are all single digits. So 5%, a single digit means it's only one digit, meaning it's less than 10. You have to know to put that extra zero there, okay? All right. So I want to show you something on the calculator and have you just kind of, well, I'll just show it to you this way. If I were to say 10%, I'm going to give you some examples, and you're going to tell me if you, oops, if you can figure it out. 10% of $50 is 5. So you're looking to see if you can figure out how to find 10% of a number. 10% of, we'll say $43 is that? We're just going to say dollars. It's easier. 10% of $826 is $82.60. What am I doing to find 10%? Yes. So if I were to say, where was the decimal? Here. Where did it end up? There. It was here. It ended up there. It was here. Ended up there. So to find 10%, you're just multiplying by 0.10, which moves the decimal 1 to the left. So everything we do is going to be based on this, guys. Move the decimal 1 place to the left. And then you have 10%. So that's pretty important for this, because let's take a look at, if I were to say, because then we'll get to some restaurant examples. 10% of 80 is what? So we don't need any calculators right now. So the calculators are off, lid on, because this is all estimating today. You can have calculators tomorrow when I ask you to find the exact. Today is all up here. So Angelina, it's what? Yes. Right? 10% of 80 is 8. Okay. So now let's move into when I go to the restaurant. What is a good percentage of a tip to leave? Is it okay to say you should leave $10 every time? Why is it not good to say you should leave a certain dollar amount? Yes. Okay, Mason, go ahead. Okay, yeah. So, right. Like, what if my bill is $300? What if I go to Benihana's? We're going to Benihana's Friday. It's my daughter's 11th birthday. It's going to be $1 million because we have so many people in our family. So it's expensive. So what if my bill is $300? Is $10 a good tip? No. So usually they say don't leave any less than 15. Okay? But if they're really good, you could leave 20 or even more. You can leave however much you want. What if my bill's $80 and I leave her an $80 tip? How much percent did I just leave them? I left them 100%. Yeah. You heard of those like celebrities that'll go, their bill is like $80 and they'll leave like $500 tip because they can? Like that's like, okay, so we're going to talk about percents over 100. So you're leaving a percent of what your total food bill comes to. So let's say my total food bill comes to $80. I go to Red Lobster, and there's 7 of us. And I want to leave a 20% tip. How much money would I leave them if 10% of 80 is 8? Yes. Did everybody hear what Roger said? Because look, every 10%, once I find that 10%, that's adding an extra $8. I want you to look at what I just did. Isn't this 20%? Isn't it just 2 10%? Which means it's 2 $8? So, guys, think about what you can do. If you can find 10% of a number, you can almost find the percent of any number, right? So, let's say that this lady was so good, like she filled your water up before you even had to ask, or the guy brought you 3 ketchups instead, because you like all that ketchup. Let's say you want to leave a 30% tip. And your bill comes to $50. So you want to figure out what 30% of 50 is, right? So let's start by finding 10%. 10% of 50 is 5. Then you need to leave them another 10%, which is another 5. And then another 10% because you want 30. So for 30%, that equals good. You got it. Okay? Now, I'm going to be really tricky here for a minute. Because I'm going to say to you, I'm going to ask you 2 different questions. How much tip do you leave? And the second, that's annoying. The second question I'm going to ask you is, what is your total amount that you leave. Yeah. So, what is the tip versus what is the total amount? I got to try to get that. Did I get it? What is it? It's this one. Okay. So, how much tip do I leave? 50 bucks. How much total money do I leave?
65.
Yes. I want you to see this. Where did $65 come from?
$50.
The $50 that you paid for the food. I have to get that little. It's driving me nuts. There. Okay. Plus, so does everybody see that? Okay. So now I'm going to try to see who's thinking on their feet here. So let's say that you go and your food is $60 and you want to leave not 20% because you asked them for like ranch and they forgot 3 times. They brought you like a Dr. Pepper instead of cherry Pepsi. So you only want to leave that. Don't say anything. But you have to walk yourself through this. Explain to your neighbor why you think that is the certain amount that you're going to leave. So if your bill is $60 and you want to leave a $15 tip, or I'm sorry, 15% tip, figure out how much money that would be and then discuss it with your neighbor and kind of explain to them how you got an answer. So go ahead and figure that out. 15% of 60 with no calculators. So go ahead and take a minute to figure that out.
This stuff just comes so fast.
Yes, that's good if you're good with numbers. So, how much tip are you going to leave? And then be able to walk me through it and explain why. $9. How'd you get $9? That is correct.
10% of 60 would be $6, and it's 15, so it's half.
Good. If 10% is $6, what if, so for every 10%, you're leaving another $6, but what if you don't want to leave 10%? Then don't leave the full 6, leave half. So add only another 3, which is why you come up with 9. Very good. What if your bill is $120 and they're so good that you want to leave a 25% tip? There's a couple different ways to do this. Try to figure out the best way in your head to get the answer. 25 is kind of a special number too. So you have 2 options right now. You can figure out 10 and 10 again. Okay, will that help you a little bit right there? So that's not a bad model to use right there. And then I'm going to ask you for another way. It all begins with, can you find 10%? If you can't, this is going to be hard. What would that extra additional 5% be, Eladio? 6. So this would be 30. Anybody get 30 another way?
Oh.
Victoria, do you want to explain it? How'd you get it, Roger?
Oh, what?
25% equals what?
30.
Right.
Yeah.
Did anybody just divide that by 4? Yeah. Right? James is like, yeah, sure. Isn't that? Because think about it. A quarter. If I take that $120 food bill, what's in each piece of it? Isn't each of these equal to 25%?
Yeah.
So is 25% the same as just dividing by 4? Yeah. Shortcut. Okay? Keep that in the back of your mind there. Okay. So what if I were to say my bill is $80 and I want to leave a 110% tip? All right, hold on. Well, let's back up a minute. What if you just wanted to leave them 100%? Yeah, it means every bit of what your bill was is every bit of what you're leaving as a tip. So if you look at it as this every time, you guys will be okay, right? Because how much is 100% of 80? 80. How much is 10% of 80? 8. You would leave what as your tip? $88. But what would your final total amount of money?
168.
Yes, that you leave on the table. So this is the tip. This is the food. This would be 168 total. Yes. So if you are the waiter or waitress, you would take that $168, you would put 80 of it in the register for the food for the restaurant, and then 88 would either go, depending on how the restaurant does it, in the tip jar. Sometimes they split it at the end of the night, all the waiters. Okay, so are you starting to understand that a little bit? Okay, how about 5% of the students in gym class forgot their clothes? That should not be that many spaces. Forgot their clothes to dress. Okay? What do you need to know?
How many students?
Yeah, you're waiting for me to tell you. You need to know something else. You can't give me how many kids forgot their gym clothes until I tell you how many kids are in that whole class. All right? So we're going to say 60. There's 60 kids. Don't shout it. So then my question to you is, how many kids forgot their clothes? Okay. 5%. So Brian?
6 kids.
That would be if 10% forgot their clothes. Because 10% of 60 is 6. 3. He's got it. So 3 kids forgot their clothes. Yep. Okay. All right, how are we feeling about estimating percents? Oh, let's do this. Because I'm not always going to be that nice to you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
17% of 45.
Oh, geez.
Okay. So, here's what you can do. There's a couple ways to do it. You could say 17%. And guys, here's the deal. We're estimating. Don't get like crazy and think about it like that. Although I can tell you how that would work. You know what? We'll keep it simple. I know some of you, just for this purposes. Well, you could say 10% is 5. Another 5% would be 250. So right now, we're looking at 15% tip being 750. So at that point, you could say it's got to be a little more than 750 and leave 8, right? Okay? Let's see, what time do we got? I'm going to show you a shortcut for those of you who are all about like preciseness. You know how you can find 1% of something? Instead of moving it over one place, move it over 2. So 10% of 50 is 5, but 1% is that. So for those of you who so choose to get fancy and do that extra 1%, so what would 1% of $84 be? 84 cents. But guess what? We're estimating. We're not doing this crazy stuff. So you know what you could do? Figure this out, get as close as you can, and say it's a little more, so add $1 or $2. Okay? Do you understand? So, you are going to be asked questions like this today. So while I am passing this out, I'll give you a little sneak peek. You have 45 books. You want to donate 12% of them to the Salvation Army. So how many books do you need to give them? Or your school has a goal to raise $4,200. You end up raising 150% of your goal. That means you raised more than the $4,200. You raised all $4,200 and then 50% more of it. Okay? Right. Do you understand? I gotta get this. Is this recording?